Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon. Spencer Dutton would be a better father than Kevin Costner in Yellowstone, because 1923's finale told us so. Spencer Dutton, Brandon Sklinner, already looks like he'll be a better father than John Iwe. Kevin Costner was in Yellowstone, and 1923 Season 2 has already proven that. By the end of 1923 Season 2, Spencer Dutton has become a father to his and Alexandra's, Julia Schlepfer, son, John Iwe. Unfortunately, since Alexandra died of complications from her frostbite, Spencer's going to have to raise John Iwe mostly on his own. The Yellowstone spin-off series only had time to show Spencer caring for John Iwe for a few minutes, but it already looks like he's going to be a good dad. While there won't be another season of 1923, Spencer could still show up in a different upcoming Yellowstone spin-off. Taylor Sheridan does have plans for another prequel show titled 1944, which is only 20 years later. Spencer could easily pop up in that, and we could get a first-hand look at his relationship with John Iwe. Luckily, we already have a pretty good idea of how good of a father Spencer will be thanks to 1923 itself. At the very least, Spencer is already shaping up to be a better father than Kevin Costner's John Iwe was to Lee, Case, Beth, and Jamie. Even before he became a father, 1923 proved that Spencer had what it takes to be a good dad. On the train to Livingston, before he saw Alexandra in the cold, Spencer met a young boy who wanted to trade a pocket knife for his lion's tooth. While interacting with the boy, Spencer proved that he could treat children with attention, care, and genuine interest. Spencer answered all of his questions earnestly and honestly. He told him some truths about the world with a lot of respect, and he even got swindled by the boy and let him have the tooth. It's not a guarantee that Spencer will be a perfect father, but the fact that he's already so demonstrably good with children is a sign that he won't be terrible. Another great sign is Spencer's reaction at hearing that Alexandra was pregnant. Spencer clearly wanted a son like John Iwe in his life, and he clearly has at least some of the skills necessary to be a good father. On top of it all, John Iwe is the only thing Spencer has left of Alexandra, which should make him even more fond of his son. The bar for Spencer surpassing John Iwe in terms of fatherhood is astonishingly low. In fact, a big part of Yellowstone was dedicated to displaying that John Iwe was an awful dad in a wide variety of categories. He's the reason Case was estranged from the rest of the family, the reason Jamie was so insecure, and the reason Beth was so emotionally damaged and had such a hard time opening up to Rip. There are countless examples of how bad of a father John Iwe was. He abused them physically and emotionally, he lied to them, and he prioritized the ranch above their needs at every opportunity. The only time John Iwe was ever shown as a good father figure instead of an absolute menace was with his grandson Tate. By then, however, John Iwe was well into his 60s, and age had softened his approach to children. As long as Spencer doesn't terrorize his child and treat him with contempt and cruelty every chance he gets, he'll be a better father than his grandson proved to be. Spencer's fatherly qualities aren't the only things the young John Dutton too has going for him either. At least for the earliest parts of his life, John Iwe will be partially raised by Jacob Harrison Ford and Cara Dutton Helen Mirren. They've already proven themselves to be good caretakers who deeply loved their nephews, and they treated them well enough for both Spencer and Jack, Darren Mann, to deeply care about them in turn. Additionally, Jacob mentioned that he's retiring from the rancher's life, which means John Iwe will have a mother and father figure at all times, even when Spencer is out on the range. Jacob and Cara, however, were in their 80s already by the time John Iwe was born, so he won't have that steady source of care and compassion for his entire childhood. Elsa Dutton's narration also revealed that Spencer never remarried, and he only had a relationship with a widow to keep him company. Depending upon when Kara and Jacob die, John Hugh's early childhood may still turn out somewhat bad. Spencer will have to spend countless hours on horseback tending to the Yellowstone. In that way, even 1923's rare glimmer of hope has a storm cloud alongside it. In the rugged expanse of Montana, where family legacies are carved into the land with blood and sweat, fatherhood is more than a role. It's a battle cry, a legacy, and a silent promise. And no franchise explores that more deeply than Yellowstone and its sprawling prequel 1923. While Kevin Costner's John Dutton IE might be the patriarch we've come to associate with stoic silence, rancher wisdom, and fierce loyalty, the finale of 1923 quietly handed the emotional torch of fatherhood to Spencer Dutton, and made it clear that he could and would do it better. Let's start with the obvious. Spencer Dutton is a warrior forged by fire, not just land. His journey in 1923 isn't just a physical odyssey across oceans and continents, it's an emotional crucible. He begins as a haunted man, exiled by choice after the horrors of World War I, seeking solace in Africa's wild plains. But what we see in Spencer isn't the trauma that breaks a man. It's the pain that teaches him tenderness. His bond with Alexandra isn't built on convenience or reliance. It's born of soul. When she chooses to leave behind a life of comfort and aristocracy to follow him into danger, we're witnessing a love that understands sacrifice. And isn't that what great fathers do? Sacrifice, willingly and without applause. Contrast that with John Dutton IE. Kevin Costner plays him with steel in his spine and a shotgun under his gaze. He's the man who protects his land like a king guards a throne. But his approach to fatherhood is military. He deploys his children like pawns in a dynastic chess game. Beth is his attack dog, emotionally ravaged yet unwaveringly loyal. Case is the wayward son, pulled between legacy and love. Jamie? Well, we all know what happened to Jamie. For John, the ranch comes first, and sometimes his children come somewhere behind the horses. He's not unloving, but he loves with condition, with expectation, and most of all, with silence. His version of fatherhood is tough love, stripped down to the tough. Now let's return to Spencer, standing on the deck of a ship, separated from the woman he loves, whispering promises into the wind. In the 1923 finale, after surviving shipwrecks, gunfights, and societal judgment, he loses Alexandra, not permanently, but enough to shatter him. And how does he react? Not with violence, not with stoicism, but with vulnerability. That vulnerability, that raw emotional availability, is what would make Spencer a better father. Because a good father isn't just a protector. He's a teacher, a nurturer, and a mirror for his children. Spencer has seen the worst of men and chose not to become one. He's fierce, but fair. He fights, but not for ego. He listens, he mourns, he feels. And that, in the Dutton universe, is revolutionary. John Dutton II rules with silence. He doesn't talk much about his feelings. He prefers cattle drives to conversations. His children grow up with a sense of duty, not necessarily love. Spencer, on the other hand, would teach his children that love is duty. That protection doesn't mean suppression. That survival isn't enough. You must live. And let's not forget the storytelling clue that Taylor Sheridan left us in 1923's finale. When Spencer is separated from Alexandra, it's not framed as weakness. It's the fuel that will drive him back to Montana to reclaim his family, not just the Dutton Ranch, but the future of that name. That yearning, that willingness to traverse the world for love, tells us everything. He's not just returning to fight for land, he's fighting for connection. What kind of father would Spencer be? The kind who never misses a birthday. The kind who kneels to talk to his child eye to eye, not bark commands from horseback. The kind who tells his son or daughter about the war, not to instill fear, but to teach peace. And maybe most importantly, Spencer Dutton has the power of reflection. He knows what trauma does. He carries the ghosts of war in his sleep, and yet he doesn't let them dictate his actions. He talks to Alexandra. He opens up. He seeks love, not as a balm, but as a foundation. Kevin Costner's John Dutton is the last of the old guard, stoic, landlocked, and bound by masculine codes of silence. But Spencer? Spencer is the beginning of something better. A man who can raise children with gentleness and strength. A man who doesn't have to choose between legacy and love. He makes them one and the same.